Good morning. This here is a shelf, or it was a shelf, and now it's going to be used as a whiteboard. Just so I can have a whiteboard, because it might make it easier to draw out some things. For thousands and thousands of years, humanity has, or civilized humanity, has used a city centre to distribute concepts and power. Is that gonna? Yeah, and all types of things. And this has been predominantly, I'm gonna just kind of go here, because of communication. So people that were distributing their power, so they would assume power of a place, and then they would kind of build up that place and then project their power outward. If you think of Rome, this is all roads lead to Rome. That is because Rome, the idea of a city centre, somewhere you can project out from, and as a lighthouse to draw people in, has been the way we've organised civilizations. This has led to a lot of progress, a lot of things that are positive, a lot of things that are negative as well, but it's just it's not like anyone really sat there and they probably did sit there and design it, but it was kind of just, it's a case of technology, development based on technological iterations, because, and this is so you can think of Rome is the great example of an empire, which is one central spot that projects out. If you think of kind of medieval, the Dark Ages and things like that, you have lots of these kingdoms, and they're like smaller versions of this. So there has always been a drive, and actually you can even see this in the United Kingdom, that the United Kingdom now is kind of still in that empire role a little bit. It does project out quite far. So does Rome. And you can then just see this is a conflict that's primarily driven and led by the one factor that kind of keeps these two entities. If you think of the Protestant, and I'll go to here, let's put a P there, Protestant Church of England and the Roman Catholic. And these are these two empires that are just projecting out into the world. And we're getting all types of different little empires coming in. We could definitely call this China. China has an empire now projecting out, and with their Belt and Road Initiative, they are clearly on empirical aspiration. And then we have strange ones we could put down here. This could be Google. Google having its own empire, kind of with its monopoly of search results and of distributed independent media. Two quite large things to have captured globally. And then there's like, so there's like a strange like interplay between these institutions. They're not completely like autonomous. They're yeah, they have connections between them, like they're cooperative. I think as long as then, and so you can see that we're slipping back. Let's put a little one here and call that M for meta. Right. You can see how we're slipping kind of into a more feudal model where we've had introductions of larger powers come in, and it's starting to, from my generation's perspective, or from and this could just be my individual perspective, but it's quite strong. So the introduction of, say, China and Google and Meta into the equation of this historic tension between the Protestant Reformation and the Roman Catholic Church. And obviously there's far more. There's a lot more. There's Islam, there's Muslim, these are religions, and then there's other type of empirical, like Russia is bordering on empirical, and then there's alliances going on between this. But we are on our way back to a more distributed power structure system. And so strangely enough, like this traditional conflict here between these two entities that have shaped the last couple of 100 years of human history is from a I'm not young and I'm not old, I'm kind of in the middle. From my perspective, it's like these are the same thing. It's and I don't mean that in a negative sense. So then we're having infiltration from both sides, say from China having a very different, disconnected structure from these two, interfering into this system, and the tech interference as well, trying to use their relatively new, especially the tech, trying to use their relatively new kid on the block status to expose misdeeds done by these now very like I mean basically they're celebrating the same figure in just what now is like slightly different ways, and they put a high importance on like maintaining this these traditions. And so, over here, this traditional left and right, isn't it? So it's like Protestant left, open. Open to interpretation. And over here, closed. The Roman Catholic, like control, we could call this control, and we could call this experimentation. And so clearly, like once we can actually go a step further, we can say like, so this traditional conflict, control, experimentation, I guess the question would be to ask, well, what would God do? And this is where Darwin comes in. Huge part of this conflict, Darwin. And I think we all know, so we've got natural selection, right? Now the sole question, the core question of these two, I think, would be, does God use experimentation? This is the, does God use metaphor? Does he use allegory? Does he use riddle? And this is where I come in. So over here, I'm going to draw another dot. Now this individual here, I'm going to call Ishmael. Now in the story of Ishmael, there is I'm bad with recollection of like exact details, and this is why I have or didn't do well in traditional school. But now, thanks to these guys down here, thanks to these tech things, they've kind of built tools to help me, because it's now at my fingertips. Not right now because I don't have internet down here. Otherwise, I could look it up. But yeah, if I did have this at my fingertips, you could see how I could still teach quite well. But basically, the story of Ishmael is in the Islamic tradition. Is controversial again, but potentially the line of Ishmael is is Islamic? Is it the crescent moon and the star? Like, I'm sorry again if I don't know, but let's just say that Muslim Islam Ishmael offshoot. So the father of, or one of the forebears of Muhammad potentially is this figure Ishmael, who broke away from what would have been around here, because this hadn't happened yet. So broke away from this Roman Catholic tradition, and there's an offshoot over here to the Islamic under Ishmael. The way that I consider all these, so Buddhism, I don't know what that is again, I don't know what the symbol is, and traditional cultures potentially are shaped by this figure. And this is just my interpretation. This is how I feel. This is how I map it out in my own mind. It's not, and again, I'm allowed to do that because of this breakaway here, this Protestant Reformation, which has given me the right to do this. So it's very strange to be, we can see that this is a breakaway here between this, which led to the Islamic tradition. And I've come, this is the way I've come via this path, the Protestant Reclamation, kind of through this tech innovation and past Darwin's ideals, and I'm discovering this lost offshoot that broke away here before here. So you'll see that this is like biblically kind of accurate, I think, that the Islamic tradition, perhaps birthed by this figure Ishmael, I think I've spelled that wrong as well, is a breakaway of the Roman Catholic control. The same as the Protestant was. But in a different way. So they broke away and then they mirrored the Roman Catholic response of control. So these two figures here are now maintaining control, a controlled base of followers, and that is actually what they're claiming is what's leading them to superiority in different ways now. And all these things draw, so the tension here, because these two entities are aligned under the figure Jesus. And so you can see that this is leading, it's a tension that pulls both ways. So the Roman Catholic controlled tradition is having to give up ideological ground to the Protestant movement. And actually now, and reverse as well, now that these external entities are pulling away, the Protestant is having to re-establish some of the control that the Catholics had, and in turn the Islamic tradition had, so that they don't slip into like what could be described as chaos. And chaos is everything else, right? Even Darwin is a form of non-chaos. So we have chaos down here, and this is best as we've got snakes, we've got spiders. This is the wild. Now, according to the Roman Catholic tradition, and when they describe what this figure Ishmael was, they describe him as a wild man. And so we can see that these splits, and also, I mean, they would describe the Protestant reclamation or revolution, whatever you want to call it, as a de-evolution back to chaos. And then, strangely enough, even the Islamic tradition now, living in this circle of control, is describing anything outside as chaos. And this is where we are. I exist in a strange place where I walk this line, the edge line, basically, of chaos and control. Because we can see from chaos that even the Protestant movement and the tech movements, and even, I mean, China's very much in control as well. So we could almost extend that bubble of control outside here, and then in actual fact, we then reveal that all these systems are systems of control, and they make up a perimeter of chaos, and their entire, you can boil down all their traditions and everything, and let's even we'll put Judaism in there as well. These are all systems of control. Now, this is my, look at my 18 minutes already, and I've done, look how good it is with pictures. Okay, so this is my theory. Well, not theory, this is my observation, and how I describe this whole thing is that these are structures and systems that are protective in nature. They're protecting us from the chaos, because chaos is dangerous, right? Look, we can also put like here, this down here, this figure, that right there, it's bad drawing. That's a virus. A virus lives in chaos, okay? So all these structures, and then we can also put like government. Government is a system of control, and it is control, but it's also protection, right? So the religious institution traditionally protect us from the chaos in ourselves, which leads to, like, put a spear, leads to war, disease, we could put fire. Fire comes from chaos. That's why all these institutions can be identified as from the fire. So fire in its natural state is chaotic. All of these institutions use controlled fire as their as iconography in their traditions. Even if we look here, the very image that we use, again, it's a bad drawing, to display innovation or an idea is controlled fire in the form of a light bulb. So a light bulb is controlled chaos. We take a chaotic thing from chaos, we control it, we surround it in glass, funnily enough. This is a pretty consistent thing that happens as well. We surround it in glass, which gives us control over a chaotic element. And all of these institutions are protective mechanisms of chaos. And we've gone on a journey where those things have been, more and more needed in the past, because there was war coming in, there was disease coming in, nature was dangerous. We did conquer this chaos. And these are the logos of the institutions of protection that emerged in that journey to bring order to the chaotic nature that we're born into, that it exists around us. Now, the interesting point to note, let's just see how many of these figures there's core figures in all of these that have a similar journey. And this is actually the hero's journey, which is again recycled in all our myths and all that, even our new stories that we tell. And it was actually me trying to explain this 10 years ago that led to me being identified probably as a chaotic figure and attempted to be controlled by a mental health thing, which is very crazy, because I spent, the one time I actually started doing my homework and I got, they tried to put me in a mental hospital, and I'm doing high-level English literature or even whatever, like spiritual studies, religious studies, and that's funny that kind of dichotomy is existing, where now we live in a place where if you address the initial figures too much, then you are perceived as chaos. And the reason for that, I hope you're following along, is let's have a look at this journey. I would describe the journey of Jesus Christ as a journey into chaos and then returning to bring insights back. The Protestant movement is a journey from the control of the Catholic Church out into chaos, into the chaos of self-determination and away from control, and then back into control to bring insights. The Chinese traditions is full of these figures. So they have their own little independent, and we could describe this as their figure monkey magic, right? With his staff is a figure of a monkey god of mischief. And so a lot of Chinese traditional religious type things is constantly dotted with this individuals into chaos and then out. We can see Muhammad over here in the in the Islamic tradition is somewhere in between this period. We have Muhammad, and I don't know enough about it, but I almost guarantee that there is a figure that has gone out into chaos, returned with insights, and formed back. And it's in this loop. Let's just do that. It's in this loop of their journey that their figure is concreted in. Darwin, right? Darwin has journeyed from, I'm not sure whether he was in this, perhaps the Protestant Reformation inspired him to then make his own journey out into chaos. We can put here, this is the Galapagos Islands, chaotic, unexplored territory. And then he has returned back to the source with his findings and insights from chaos. Obviously, we've got some type of, funnily enough, the Judaism or the Jewish tradition or the Semitic tradition. This could be described as either way. You could describe that they've actually, their journey is from chaos. Definitely from control in the form of the pharaoh. That's a pyramid, right? They've left, and we've got Moses. Their story is this, clearly, that they've gone from the control of the pharaohs and of Egypt out into chaos, wrestled with God out there for a bit, and then returned back as their own institution, which now is an institution of control. And every time we do this journey, we receive positive and negative things, I think, because obviously we're interacting with chaos. I might run out of storage, so I'll do one more. We can see that this farmer what should be considered as a religion, the way it's operating now. Farmer is coming off the steam of the Protestant Recollection. They're having interaction supposedly with chaos, bringing back insights. But the problem with farmer is that then they don't seem to be actually going into chaos. They're not. It's like there is no figure. There's no consistent. It's the difference with this, because they are not leaving control, because they are attempting to secure themselves against chaos, and that over preparation, like then they are not going into chaos. They are trying to intervene with chaos without being exposed to it. They're trying to change and projecting out into chaos. And this chaos isn't just external, it lives inside our bodies. The chaos of disease, right? As we all might make a journey in disease, pharma is projecting itself as a protective mechanism. Not all pharma, but controlled pharma is not leaving this. Out of control pharma is the psychedelic movement. Right, consistent in all types of native cultures, the psychedelic movement is clearly feeding off the Protestant Recollection. It's drawing from this Ishmaelic, this offshoot here, this wild man, like humans that actually constantly live in chaos in the form of like traditional people that kind of have little bubbles around themselves, but they live in it's semi-permeable, so they're always in chaos and have very low level of protection. This is where the psychedelic movement is screaming. So out of the Protestant into chaos via, knowledge from these individuals that still live out in chaos, returning, actually being blocked by traditional institutions of power, from the government, from religions, from pharma, and attempting to bring their insights back to the whole thing. Now, this is where it gets really crazy. These guys here, this tech thing, is enabling all of this to be known for the first time ever, and all of this to be communicated and distributed all the time, all over the place. But it's, as you can see that I've filled this whole board, it's very complicated to explain. And this is, this has never happened before like this. We are breaking away with a new paradigm, but the core principle of all of this story is that, and this is like Jordan Peterson's done a lot on this, and they both actually start with C, funnily enough. It's the line we walk between chaos and control. And the base from all of this, we can see that the main thing being protected is that everyone, so I'm going to make this into an I, everyone, very much like the Protestant thing, but in a larger thing, everyone not only has the power to interpret the books of the established order, but everyone has a right to define their own walk between these two elements. And that doesn't mean we need to throw any of these things away. It just means that this is the new paradigm. That every person is responsible for their own journey between those two elements. So we can simplify this whole stupid drawing into something like that. Yeah, you could draw that like an hourglass with two C's either side of it. And that's our time that we have. Our time that we have on this earth will be divided between these two pressures, and that's the way we get the constrained thing. And then one drop at a time, we can pass through that line. And that is going to exist no matter how much protection we have. So this protection, a lot of this was all to try and capture people in something, to extract from them, very much like this situation here in the desert with the sand. So we can, and then you can actually look even here, look, Star of David, if pushed down, it's the same model. Now you can see the pyramid structure here. This is where it gets really interesting, is only a receiving section. It's only the bottom section of this. So the Egyptians clearly had a connection with a higher source, and that is their point of divination with the unknown, with the universe. Isn't that interesting? So this is the line, we are receiving wisdom down from the ethereal. We're dropping down from the ethereal into the concrete physical existence through this tension between control and chaos. This exists in all of us, and this exists upwards through the levels of consciousness or humanity, or as above, so below, all that stuff. Isn't that cool? Isn't it cool? But we're all just in the same thing. Now this can be seen, the easiest way for you to tell this, and I showed my son this like just this week. You need to go to a wild place and you need to stand on the edge of it, and you need to ask permission to enter that place. You will feel it if you put enough emphasis into the ceremonial welcome to country thing. This exists in all of us. We can all have this interaction. It will exist at all edges, and that is the division between control and chaos. Now, both have things to learn. We can learn from chaos and we can learn from control, but when you're in healthy alignment, you should be getting better and better and better and better and better at living right there. You're passing from the divine into the material. You're coming from the heavens into earth. You are constantly stuck between these two C's in chaos and control. And that is right where humans live and always will. And the better you get at existing there, the more secure you will feel in your existence, the more powerful you'll feel in your existence, the more autonomous you'll feel in your existence, which is very conflicting to all these things. And you'd see like this hourglass, it actually would live. That line, see, goes up through the center and then that. So it's that line. That's where we live. We live on the edge. On the edge, man.